You can go now.
I thought I might stay over tonight.
Why?
Because we're girlfriend-boyfriend.
Oh, but I don't want you here.
There's a lot of controversy about this movie. It has rave reviews, but there's a lot of people that are talking about that this movie has a lot of toxic femininity. Now, I'll just start off by saying I don't think that the traits of toxicity are male or female. It's just certain traits are toxic. I think that it's more just toxicity that we should be talking about. But since that's the theme that people are talking about, I figured let's go through the movie and take a look at some of the more controversial scenes and look at it and say, do you think that it's toxic or not?
Distract them by appearing helpless and confused. Hens cannot resist a damsel in distress.
You have to make them believe that they have the power. And when their guard is down, you take the power back.
So, do you think that it's toxic that Barbie is using Ken's weaknesses against them? The things that they care about, the things that matter to them. Certain personality types have certain things that matter to them more. People that are caretakers like to care for things. People that like power positions like to feel powerful and in control. So I think that for Barbies, this is just a really highly effective strategy, but I don't think that this works for all men, perhaps for all Kens. When we generalize or label things, we lose all of the nuances that it doesn't really matter what gender you are, it really matters what personality type you are. And I think that we stick things in categories because it makes it easier for us to be able to understand how to interact with things. But if you stick these wide generalizations, one is you're often actually very wrong. And two, I find it really insulting because we are so much more than what we look like, where we're labeled, where we grew up, how much money we make, what job we do. So you have to ask yourself, are you trying to do the greater good? Are we looking for Barbie to do the right thing? Or are we looking for her to be effective in her strategy? And so if we talk about the art of war versus someone that's going to be an egalitarian, those are two separate things. But in this case, Barbie wants to take back her land. Her being thoughtful probably wouldn't be the most strategic way, because whenever you're trying to solve a problem, you want to look at the end result first and then work your way backwards instead of working your way forwards. It's so much easier. And for her, her only goal is to get back Barbie land. And so you can say, would it be fair for her to do anything that she has to do in order to do that? Would it be considered toxic for her to be able to go through this? I just think to myself that if this was a role reverse, and in many movies, people do really horrific things, much more horrific things to get back even simplistic objects, and no one even questions it. Yet, when this is something with Barbie versus the Kens, then this is suddenly that she's using Ken's weaknesses against him. This is horribly wrong.
Photoshop is so hard. I just don't understand how to use the select tool.
Honey, you can only use the select tool if the layer is highlighted. Let me show you.
Well, I think that it's a play upon how men want to help women, but they think that women are stupid. But is it an assumption that they're making? In this case, for the Barbies, they actually are saying, I don't know how to do this, or I don't understand it. So they're not being mocked for that. They're being helped out for that. I don't think that that's a horrible trait on anyone's part, because sometimes even something very simple, someone might not understand. To be able to be helpful to that, is that a horrible trait? Is that something wrong? The Kens are being helpful for the Barbies. I don't think, and I think that this will probably get a whole bunch of pushback. The whole video is probably going to get a whole bunch of pushback, but I don't think that they're making the Barbies feel like they're stupid. What they're doing to the Barbies by making them be servants and dress scantily clad and wait on them hand and foot is. But when they're actually helping the Barbies to be able to get through the tasks that they're not able to do, or if they ask a question to be able to answer it, I think that that's thoughtful. I wouldn't even say that it's chivalrous. I just think that it's thoughtful. If someone didn't know how to do something, even if it was really simple, I would just help them. I wouldn't even question it. I wouldn't think less of them because of that.
Color bands and magnetic lassos.
He's getting kind of close and handsy though.
Because he likes you, and because he knows deep down that you don't like him the same way.
Still doesn't mean I want to hurt him.
He took your house. He brainwashed your friends. He wants to control the government.
Now here we come down on a part that is much closer to being toxic. Barbie is going to use the fact that Ken likes her against him to be able to get her way and manipulate him. I think that it's a fair point. He took her house, her land, brainwashed all her friends to be able to be servants to them, which is completely wrong. Do two wrongs make a right? does this end justify the means? In order to make things right, is it okay to use someone's affection against them? I think that that is a much stronger point of debate.
True.
Girl.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
It's like I'm a woman already.
Welcome.
I don't love the comment of it's like I'm a woman already, like that's what women do. Because I don't think that that's accurate or valid either. I think that it's very rare for people, and hopefully it's very rare for people to misuse someone's kindness in order to gain a personal benefit. I think that that is a toxic behavior to be able to do. In this case, you might say that it's justified for Barbie. The ends might justify the means to it, but it still doesn't mean that it's right to have to do it. You might choose to because that's the only course of action that you might have. If you had already gone through when people were not emotional, the discussion, spoken to someone, be really honest, had that discussion, then I would have felt much less like this was the wrong course of action to go right to the nuclear way of using someone's heart against them. But because they didn't have an effective means of communication, and you could say that Barbie and Ken probably have not been taught this before because they live in Barbie land and she just pretty much did whatever she wanted and everyone listened. So they probably haven't learned that, because how do we learn discourse? It's by having different arguments and disagreements with people and learning those skills.
It's like I'm a woman already.
Welcome.
Is this what it's like?
I don't think that this is the definition of being a woman. We have many more talents and skills. It's not wooing someone into being able to control them and have them do what you want to do. It is a contrived archetype that sometimes is labeled upon women. I don't think that anyone should be using someone's affection against them. I think that it causes us a lot of damage. I think that a lot of us, our main hurt, trauma, is when someone uses our heart and plays with it even though we don't actually care for them. It's exceptionally painful, and then it causes a lot of distrust. A lot of people that have relationship issues, it's because someone has done that to them.
I was thinking,
Yes?
I'm ready to be your long-term, distance, low-commitment, casual girlfriend, if you'll still have me.
That argument of, well, what else could she do, I think is going to come up. A lot of probably the comments will be like, this is the only thing that Barbie could have done. Barbie's actually exceptionally good at communicating, at talking about it, and you could already tell that Ken feels bad. He feels bad. He doesn't want to hurt her, but he's also frustrated to have no power. He would have been amicable, possibly, at least she should have tried, to be able to have that discourse of, maybe we should have a more equitable solution for both of us. This doesn't have to be a lose-lose situation or a win-lose situation. We could actually both win and live in harmony and feel good together. Sometimes we're so scared about losing power. We think that someone else would use that to harm us, and that comes from a lack of trust. Trust each other, and they could work really harmoniously together if they discussed it. And then I wouldn't feel as bad if that didn't work out, that this was the last ditch effort and this is now what she's gonna do.
Sublime! Come on in. I'll play the guitar at you.
Oh, yay!
I'll play the guitar at you.
Said I don't know if I've ever been good enough.
I have to give it to her. She's able to hold that gaze for that long. It's just really funny.
This is the final stage of our plan. Give them their dream come true.
And at the peak of their happiness, when they think you actually care about this song, take it all away.
Like, I found it hard to watch because this was their dream. The dream wasn't to have Kenland. The dream was to have their Barbies care about them like they care about them. Barbies care about them like they care about the Barbies. Yes, you don't owe to like anyone back even if they like you. But I do think that if you see that someone likes you a lot, that it is fair to put a boundary or a consequence or let them know that I don't feel about you that way. But to take advantage and to get something that you want because of it, again, in this case, yes, I know, the Kens took Barbie Land, stole it from the Barbies, dressed them up in frivolous outfits. They have less of a moral leg to be able to stand on. but do two wrongs make a right? If it was the inverse was true, would you feel that this would be valid and fair, or would you have an issue with it? I think that in this case, what Ken did was worse than what Barbie did. Again, she didn't try if there were any other solutions first. That's my only qualm about it. Besides that, I think that this would then be fair game. Yeah, I think that if Ken had spoken about how he feels a little bit more clearly, talked to Barbie about how this isn't fair, this is inequitable, and is there something that we can do about it? Because in the end, this is a society, and I truly, here I go, getting on my soapbox, but I think that in a society, we need to do it together. I think that we need to work as a team. We need to be able to lift each other up, listen to divergent voices, to hear the voices that haven't been given a say. And even if it's hurtful to us, to be able to listen, hear that, and if we need to make changes, to be able to make changes for that without manipulating and hurting them. Because after this could end actually with people being even more hurt and even more angry and then fighting against each other even stronger. And that's how we tear societies apart, and we end up making these little tiny fanatical groups that are going to attack the other. And that polarization rips the fabric of society apart. And you want to have a cohesive society where everyone's voice is heard and is given space.
Who are you texting?
No one.
Let me just... Ken!
She's making the Kens fight among themselves, which, again, in this movie, it's interesting because there's so many people that are angry about how the Barbies treated the Ken, but in this case, this movie is the opposite. So people that find that the Barbies are acting really toxic, you always have to ask yourself, well, if the inverse is our society, would I also find that toxic? And if you do, why aren't we then changing it? And this is a little bit different because in this case, all of the Kens are created for the Barbies. So they already have this preset want for a certain Barbie. And so that's why they're using this against them. That's why it feels more hurtful for me. Again, I'm a super feeler, I'm a therapist, so I want everyone to try to do things better. But if we're talking just about Machiavellian art of war kind of ways, you do whatever you can for the end result. But that doesn't mean that it isn't toxic to be able to do it. Both could be true. Yeah, flame me in the comments. If you have to step on other people to stand up, and these are the people that you want to then build society with, they may not be there after. They may become really angry.
I don't think that things should go back to the way that they were. No Barbie or Ken should be living in the shadows.
Or Alan.
Yeah, don't forget Alan. I love it. I love that she, even though she could take back all of the power as president and make Barbie Land exactly as it is before, she wants to do things differently. She wants everyone to have a voice. And that's that part that kind of silver lining to the movie is that even though in the end they could have taken back all of the power, they chose not to. And that's a great sign of strength.
Hello. I just want to say I'm sorry we called you Weird Barbie behind your back and also to your face. Okay.
It's not okay. These words hurt. And even words that we often take words that have hurt us and carry them as our own labels and try to make them more empowering because of that. But words hurt. Sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me. No, I'm sorry. Actually, for many people, the words hurt more than the actions, and they'll play back in our head and they'll become our inner voice, that voice of negativity and labeling that will end up labeling ourselves and keep on playing it like a record in our head. That is definitely a toxic behavior, to call people names, to mock people for who they are, people that are different, people that we don't see the same as us. And so I'm happy that they apologized and they owned the apology and they said it in a really direct, sincere way, in an honest way, without defending it, without saying why we did it or why it's okay. Often when we feel labeled or attacked, we often want to defend ourselves and say that I'm not horrible, but sometimes just owning that I did this horrible thing and I shouldn't have, and leaving it like that is one of the ways that people feel the most heard.
Please may the Kens have one Supreme Court justice.
Oh, I can't do that. But maybe a lower circuit court judgeship.
We accept, as long as we can wear robes.
And so that one I have to question is why didn't she want to have the Kens have any place, any voice, any say in the Supreme Court? If we don't have representation in the places of power where we are, then these voices won't really be heard. You could say that, oh, this is fair for A, B, and C reason, but you always want to go back that if it's fair for one group, would it be fair for the other? If you felt that the Kens did this and say, okay, Barbies, you can have power, but I'm not going to give you Supreme Court power, not actual power. You're not even going to have one say, one nominal voice on the Supreme Court. Would you be okay with that? And if you wouldn't, then could the inverse be true? Is it okay just because someone treats you unfairly that you should then treat them unfairly? And yes, some people do not learn through kindness. They will take your kindness and see that as weakness and use it against you. That is a fair discussion to be able to make. But I think that also if we're leading, we need to lead the way and show that we can be better. And I think that if we always play to the lowest common denominator, we always kind of end up in the mud. I did hope that they would at least get one person to be able to be nominated for the Supreme Court.
Well, the Kens have to start somewhere. The Kens will have as much power and influence in Barbie land as women have in the real world.
Wait to see how many people don't actually watch the video, just read the title, and send out angry comments like my video on toxic masculinity, which wasn't actually about it being masculinity, but the term of that for the video on the boys. My thought on the subject of is the Barbie movie toxic femininity, and does it mistreat or hate upon men, or is this just a reflection of our society and discussing these very difficult topics that we need to have a discussion about? I don't love terms that are gendered. I don't believe that. They're just traits that people have. So no, I don't think that there is such a thing as toxic femininity. There's just toxicity. Hopefully this will help you be less toxic in your own world. And if you want to be able to help support the channel, you can subscribe, or if you would like to support a little bit more and financially, you could become a member and you get some cute little tiny emoji and a nice badge. So thank you to everyone that does support. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.